My name is Albert Pirro. I've got a lifetime of restaurant experience, including 18 years of bartending, designing cocktails, consulting on bar menus, and competing in cocktail competitions. I've set out to challenge the best mixologists in the world to the ultimate bartending battle. I will go to the coolest bars, learn about the greatest spirits, and challenge the most talented bartenders as we twist, stir, and shake the freshest original and classic cocktails anywhere. So grab a dram and settle in. It's time for Mixology's main event as we find out who's got the most spirit for spirits.
Hi, I'm Albert Pirro. We're here today at Royalton Hotel in the heart of Midtown Manhattan, home of one master mixologist, Joshua Brandenburg, and his world-famous hickory smoked old fashions. We're gonna issue a challenge to Joshua. Now let's head in, have an old-fashioned showdown, and see who's got the most spirit for spirits. Joshua Brandenburg?
Yeah.
My name is Albert Pirro. I hear you make one of the best hickory smoked old fashions in all of New York City.
Sure.
I'm wondering if you're willing to put that on the line. A little old-fashioned showdown with yours truly.
Sure thing. You got it.
Cool. Now, you've chosen the old-fashioned as your signature drink, so I'm going to choose the spirit. We're going to be using Whistle Pig 10-year-old rye whiskey from Shoreham, Vermont. Now, I've done my homework. I just spent a couple of days up at the farm, had some people walk me through that amazing and beautiful whiskey. Let's see what that looked like. I'm here at the Whistle Pig Rye Whiskey Distillery in Shoreham, Vermont. We're going to find out what makes rye whiskey rye whiskey. We're also going to find out what makes a classic old-fashioned a classic. So we'll have a great base from which to twist for our competition. Let's go down there and get some of that whiskey warmer in us, because man, is it cold in Vermont in the winter. Woo! I'm here at the distillery with our special guest, Mr. Peter Lynch. Pete is the master blender here at Whistle Pig Farm and Distillery. Pete, thanks so much for being with us.
Albert, what a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine, my friend. So the first question that we have to ask, why rye?
Why not, right? Why bourbon? That's a better question. Yeah, we've got all these great bourbons out there. We've got sweet, we've got caramel, we've got brown sugar. But why not venture into the other realm of whiskey, which is the spices, the herbaceousness, those fruity flavors that are hiding underneath the surface, you know? A little bit of florality if you want, some grassiness. Really open up the idea of what whiskey can be. And not just kind of stick to this idea. Whiskey is sweet, whiskey is sugary, whiskey tastes like a corn bomb. It doesn't have to. And especially when we're talking about cocktails.
So what is it that we do here? What makes Whistle Pig a special rye?
Well, how long do you have, my friend, to be here all week? First and foremost, we are the most unique, one-of-a-kind rye out there insofar as we source and produce the greatest, most versatile, flavor-wise, potential-wise, prestige-wise ryes in the world. Not just North America, but the world. And these are coming from Canada, from across North America, even from across the pond, believe it or not. And we're looking to really kind of show the world what rye whiskey can be. People think of rye whiskey and they think of it's spicy. It's a spice bomb. And they think nothing else because they don't really know what rye whiskey has the potential to turn into. We're kind of trying to give you an alternate idea that rye can be, sure, spicy, but rye can be sweet. Rye can be floral, fruity. Rye can be exciting. Rye can be youthful. Rye can make you think it's a scotch, even if it's done right. And that's really our aim.
We are going to focus on the 10 today. The 10 is what we'll be using in our competition against Joshua Brandenburg. We're here in the distillery. Why don't you walk us through? We'll see the beautiful combo still you've got, all these wonderful things.
One of my most favorite things about corn is it tastes like what it is. People think about rye whiskey, they don't really know what rye is. You know, okay, it's spicy, but what else is it? I've had rye bread, does it taste like that?
At some levels.
There's so many levels to work with.
I think if we think about it as tell me if I'm onto something, if we think about it, the interestingness of rye bread versus the sweetness and plainness of cornbread, you have a pretty good idea of how the grain will change just based on bread make. And then how it relates.
That's a funny analogy right there that I'm absolutely going to steal from you.
Yeah. Well, I know we're here at the still. We're actually looking at new make at the moment. Before we've even gotten to this point, can you take us through some of the processes, the basics of how whiskey gets distilled?
We've got sort of a privileged take on this here at Whistle Pig because we do everything from step one to step infinity, if you will.
Yeah.
The process is never ending. We grow the grain here, we harvest it, we store it in silos, we grind it here, we mash it into a distiller's beer, we ferment it here, using yeast native to this area, give us this unique flavor profile and whatnot. We distill it in a unique pot still specified to get this certain flavor profile, this crispness, you know, that spice of the grain, but also these other more subtle notes, floral notes, if you will, these citrus notes, these even sweeter, fruitier notes that might come through. We even use our own oak from around the farm. And we treat that with a special sort of toasting and charring process that brings out these unique flavors that you're not going to see in a regular barrel that you're going to get out of Kentucky.
What are the 5 things that really make up the flavor profile of any good whiskey?
The grain. It's the building block of what this whiskey can potentially be, all the directions it can go in. Mashing and fermentation. That's where all the flavor compounds are created. That's where the yeast really comes into full bloom and lets us know this is going to be a fruity, spicy, sweeter, complex, or simpler whiskey. Distillation. We're able to pick and choose what we want to keep in this spirit, what we want to take out. That lets us take it to the next step, which is maturation, and really control how that wood is going to work with this spirit. Do we want a cleaner spirit that's going to age for a bit less time? Do we want a heavier spirit that might take a little bit longer to come into its own, but eventually will become a fine, complex, exquisite whiskey unlike any other? And lastly is the water aspect. We use all of our own water on site. We've got a native well just up the hill right there.
And of course, that's going to bring us down to proof. That's the water we're going to use to start the mashing process.
And it's going to give it our own unique spin and flavor.
Something super local. Could anything be more Vermont than using your own water,
your
own everything right here on site? I can't wait to see what it looks like in a barrel. Why don't we head over to the rick house? Well, we've just left the actual distillery. So after you've distilled, it comes down to whatever barreling proof you're going to do. You just add a little bit of that water, create that barrel strength, and then you put it in a barrel, and it ends up over here in the barrel barn.
Indeed.
Now, what's the importance of the barrel?
There is a lot of debate in the whiskey world and the spirits world as to the importance of the barrel in the production process. Some people will say it's 80% of the whiskey. Some people will say it's 50% or less. It doesn't really matter that much. What matters is that distillate. We like to say, hey, why don't we treat both equally? You can't get gold out of garbage unless you're very lucky. We don't tend to rely on luck.
Like going through grandma's basement.
Something like that, my friend. Something like that. So we make sure we've got exquisite, immediate product that is ready to then interact with quality barrels, coopered in the traditional and precise way. There's a reason the design of a barrel has not changed for centuries. It's the simplest and most beautifully complex design in the world. And what it gives us is that depth, that complexity, those notes of spice from the wood, those oaky, delicious caramel notes that are going to come through, a little bit of butterscotch, huge heaps of vanilla. And by giving it at least 10 years in the barrel, our rye is really able to get this extra level of complexity. We're moving away from just that spicy, grain-forward vibrancy that a rye will have. Rye is a hardier grain than corn is. It stands up to age a little bit better. What that means is we can really give it time to extract these flavors, these caramels, these vanillins, these nice maple syrup notes, brown sugar, these beautiful oak notes that last and last, that give us the finish we're known for. And it really takes this whiskey from just being, you know, another run-of-the-mill, good flavor, but nothing that sets it aside, and really elevates it into this new realm of this is something that's worth appreciating, enjoying, and really experiencing.
Beautiful. So the barrel is made, it's all fresh wood, and then we toast or char, burning the inside.
Precisely.
Is there a specific depth in that? I know that there's different levels of depth that create different types of flavor profile. Is there a specific depth that you guys use?
Indeed. This might be the most important part of the entire coopering process, is the heat treatment. We basically, in this industry, are using the magic of heat to convert compounds in the wood that we might not want, you know, if you've ever taken a branch when you're a child, or I don't know you that well, so, you know, and chewed on it, you're gonna get some rather unpleasant flavors. Astringency, green wood notes. However, the magic of heat catalyzes reactions, converts these sort of less desirable structural components into vanilla flavors, into caramel flavors. Really takes this wood note and changes it from just that idea of I'm chewing on some sort of sapling, and adds this sort of maturity, if you will. Yeah. That's where we're getting that idea of maturity with the whiskey. The oak is not only being extracted into the whiskey, but it's also pulling out flavors from the whiskey that we don't necessarily want. That active layer of carbon that's created when a barrel is charred or lit on fire for a number of seconds, really, when it comes down to it, that's going to clean up the whiskey and give it this beautiful color, and give it this weight, and give it this lengthy finish, again, that a lot of our whiskeys are pretty well known for, I'd say, especially our 15-year or 10-year, and really add another layer of complexity to it.
Well, I see we got a great big door here, shall we?
Be my honor. This is the barrel barn.
Welcome to Barrel Barn. Oh my goodness, we've gone to heaven.
Happens.
I see we've got plastic, we've got cages, we got barrels.
All kinds of things, my friend.
We have all kinds of stuff going on. Tell me what's happening in here.
Well, this is the nuts and bolts of the whiskey making operation when it comes down to it. People walk into this barn and they are very surprised to see plastic totes lying around. Well, guess what? We do actually need some place to store our finished whiskey, you know? There's a reason we take it out of the barrel at a certain point.
Yeah, you have to take it out and put it somewhere.
Precisely. It hits its prime age, you know, it might over-oak itself, it might lose its character.
So when you think the whiskey has reached its perfect flavor profile, it comes out of the barrel, it ends up in somewhere else to store it until it's ready to blend.
Precisely.
So the rest of it's ready, because some of the other stuff might not be ready.
And that's a pretty important point there, that Our products aren't just an age statement. They're not just one barrel of whiskey. For the most part, they are a carefully crafted recipe, almost like a cocktail that I know you're familiar with.
No, what's that all about?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I might have to tune into your show to find out. It's almost like a cocktail. There are many components to it. 10 years age stated, that's a minimum entry-level requirement for any of these barrels of whiskey to make it into this bottle. It's really a flavor profile. We're looking for all these different notes that rye can give. The caramels, the sugars, the spice, the florality, the herbaceousness, all these different levels, that good level of oak. When I look at these barrels, I see different cordials, different sort of spirits, different bitters, different, you name it.
All different pieces that make up a greater whole.
Precisely, and that's what we're
Excellent.
looking for, is to really take all these flavors and put them together in a cohesive way that brings out the best and hides any notes that we don't necessarily want to bring out.
Well, I'll tell you what, after seeing it all, we've seen it from the grain, we've seen it to here, I just can't wait to taste
That
it.
makes two of us, my friend.
Especially because it's so darn cold here. No wonder all we do is drink.
So Pete, 10 year, what have you got for me? How can we really get this flavor profile rolling so I can manipulate some of that into something
Oh
special?
boy, I mean, you know, I want to give you as much of a leg up as you can possibly get. However, I'm pretty confident that you got what it takes, because we've already got a lot of flavors here that are going to work with your cocktail beautifully. Now, when we think of rye, we think of a spicy spirit. Grain forward, bold, powerful, packs a punch. But it's not just spice. There's so much more to it. There's so many layers involved on the nose, on the palate, on the finish. Different groups of flavors that come together and give you this spirit that give you a classic cocktail, a new spin, something light, something heavy. Before dinner, after dinner drink. What we're looking at with this Whistlepig 10 year is the quintessential rye. And I like to tell people before you drink this, be prepared to have rye ruined for you for the rest of your life, because you will never be able to drink anything but this. Now we're looking at, on the nose, a lot of big heaps of vanilla, caramel. Those barrel notes are really well integrated. 10 years minimum in the barrel, plenty of time to pull these extractives, work them into that spirit, and have a cohesive marriage of flavors rather than just oak and spirit shoved together.
As we were talking about before, some of the spice notes we were talking about, not just spices like spicy pepper, but also baking spices of cinnamon, allspice, especially ginger on this nose.
And that's one of the things that we look for in rye whiskey, is this versatility in spice. And you can see it from new make spirit to finished product. This really delicious baking forward cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, allspice, cardamom, baking chocolates, these heavier notes of tobacco and leather, pipe tobacco, a little bit sweeter as well, all come together and form not just this spicy pepper, you know, giving a fire on your tongue, but a lot of complexity. These richer notes that stay with you on the finish and really give your tongue something to think about.
Before we get into the tongue, I think the other really interesting piece about this, we talked about some of those dark notes. Some of the lighter stuff is really what's sticking out to me, that like lemony, orange peel sort of flavor profile.
And that's something you'll find in a lot of our rye whiskeys, is this citrus forward note, particularly on the nose. Rye whiskey is inherently citrus forward. It almost goes with the spice element in this zesty, almost burnt orange rind sort of aspect. And you see it not only in the 10, but in the 15, in the 12 year in totally different ways, interacting with the spirit and the oak and really elevating not just the spirit, but its versatility in cocktails.
Well, now how does that translate to palate, right? So we've acclimated our senses to it on the nose. And
let's find out, shall we?
cheers, let's check it out, shall we?
So what I look for, front palate notes of citrus, big burst, vibrant, lemon zest, burnt orange, grapefruit even. You're gonna get these notes hanging with you, not just on the front palate, but in the middle palate, even to the back. Middle of the tongue, you're gonna get those spice notes coming through, those baking spices, as well as like a slight jalapeno spice as well, I like to think.
Like actual heat.
Precisely.
Actual heat, yeah.
And not too much, just enough to let you know it's there.
Ah.
I think most prominent would be the finish on this guy here. It's a finish that lasts and lasts, first of all. All kinds of flavors, though. A lot of these finishes that linger are just one note. One of the greatest aspects of the Whistlepig 10 year is that you get not just oak, not just sweetness, not just caramel, but that spice, you know? Those citrus notes, this floral note as well that comes off as you let it develop in your mouth.
Yeah, this particular finish reminds me of like the little yellow butterscotch candies in my grandmother's house.
Werther's Originals, my friend.
Oh, the smell,
yeah.
also like the smell of leather furniture in her house at the same time. Is
Well,
like,
it's funny you mention that. We do actually go around and stick one Werther's Original in every barrel. The secret's out, my friend. Yeah.
that's a lie. That is a lie, 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 lie. Is it a lie?
And that's really what the spirit experience is all about, is finding these flavors you don't expect to find, the complexity, the richness, the depth of all these, and enjoying that experience. And then taking it, as you do, and elevating that, and really giving it a spin.
I will say this about how it is in my actual mouth and on my palate. we're filling it out in a much more interesting way than a lot of other whiskey that doesn't sit around. This is sitting around the side, almost making me salivate.
There you go.
It's things that are savory
That'll
to
do
it
it.
as well. Now, not just some of the sweet notes or spice, but a real savory aspect to it that actually makes my mouth water and want more.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you almost get this sort of, for lack of a better term, meatiness, this depth of complexity in the viscosity. You know, it really lets you know it's present on the tongue. It's not just a one and done thin spirit. Part of the tasting experience isn't just flavor, it's how it feels on your tongue, how it rests on the back of your palate, how the finish lingers, and in what ways.
We say a similar thing when we're building cocktails. I want to activate everybody's senses. I want it to
Precisely.
look beautiful. I want it to smell beautiful on the way in. I want it to taste and fill my mouth. I want to hit all the parts of the tongue. I want it to feel so good in my actual body, start to finish.
And I think one of the most important things to note for both of us is we're not making spirits or cocktails or what have you for ourselves. We're making them for you, for everybody out there. And everybody has a different preference, different flavor profile they're looking for. And if we can give somebody the ability to really reach out and approach these spirits, these cocktails in a way that they're familiar with, then we can benefit the industry as a whole, really help people understand that there is more than just booze in this. This is, of course, a unique, exquisite thing that should be enjoyed and should be explored.
Pete, we've got the juices flowing. I think the next step we really have to do is see how this whiskey translates to that classic style old fashioned. So we're gonna go over, check in with Savannah Burnett, who's the steward of the brand, and see if we can build something beautiful. Pete, thanks so much for your time.
Wait, Albie. What a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. We are here with Savannah Burnett, the senior steward of the brand here at Whistle Pig Farm and Distillery. She is also the resident mixologist. Savannah, thank you so much for being with us.
Of course, always a pleasure.
Savannah is going to bring us the classic old fashioned, give us a little bit of the background, so when we go into the battle, we'll have a really good base from which to twist my own version of an old fashioned in our battle. So Savannah, what have you got for us today?
All right, so we want to get back to the roots of the old fashioned and the cocktail. We're going to actually take this all the way back to 1806, when the first published definition of a cocktail was printed. It was actually printed in the Balance and Columbian Repository. What this definition told us is that a cocktail, an old fashioned in particular, is a very simple thing. It's 4 ingredients, right? You start with a fine spirit, you add some sugar, you throw in some bitters, and last but not least, you throw in some water. You'll see some people that'll throw in an actual splash of water or club soda. We don't want to do that. We just want to use the ice as our water. That ice is going to dilute the drink slowly as you enjoy it over a period of time, hopefully. You want to really watch it evolve as that ice dilutes. So that's our water for today. So I actually started this going already. This is our bitters and sugar.
Awesome.
Take a peek. See, it's starting to dissolve a little bit there. We're turning into a nice paste.
Yeah.
Ready for this? Throw in that fine whiskey that we talked about. And we're gonna give this guy just a little spin here. We wanna start to dissolve this sugar even more. The bitters started the process for us. We want to move it along a bit.
So we're beginning the blend, but I see that you're not getting all of the sugar to dissolve. Is there a reason?
If we were to sit here and stir until the sugar fully dissolved, we would be stirring for 10 minutes, and every bartender you know would have carpal tunnel. So we're gonna give it a little start. The whiskey's gonna help it some more, but again, when we add the ice, it's gonna start to dilute, and again, you want that cocktail to evolve. As someone is sitting there truly enjoying it, you want it to evolve with every sip that they take.
Look at that beautiful cube.
Not too shabby.
And it won't add too much water.
Not too much. Slow.
Larger
dissolve
cube.
very slowly.
Less surface area, less water ends up in our cocktail.
Exactly. So we're gonna give this guy another little spin around the glass here.
Now the last thing that I've noticed is that, of course, we haven't put any fruit, no cherries, no oranges, pineapples, any of that sort of stuff into the bottom of our drink. Is there a reason for that?
No, an old fashioned doesn't need a fruit basket. You're gonna see a lot of people that are gonna throw in cherries and muddled orange and really truly create this mixed, mashed up fruit basket thing happening. That's actually not what we want to do with the old fashioned. The old fashioned, as I mentioned, is a very simple, elegant drink. So the reason that you sometimes see that happen still happened all the way back in Prohibition when whiskey was not tasting super good. So if we were going to mix up any kind of a cocktail with whiskey, we wanted to cover the taste of the whiskey. Whiskey's pretty darn good now, especially Whistle Pig, if I do say so. So we don't need to cover the taste anymore. We want to accentuate the taste, which is where this guy is going to come into play. Not a whole fruit basket, just this guy. Get right in here.
Now just the peel, not the whole fruit.
Just the peel. No fruit baskets.
No fruit
I
basket.
don't want to see any fruit baskets.
86 fruit baskets. Got that?
All right, we're going to give him a nice little spritz, get the oils from the peel all around here, and dunk him in there.
So all we've done is put the oil around the outside of the glass here, right? Just the oil from the rind.
Exactly. You're not really actually going to get a ton of flavor out of it. What you're going to get on the nose is it's going to bring out a lot of the citrus that's already on the front of this whiskey. It's also going to bring out a little of the vanilla that you're getting from the barrels. It's really all on the nose, and it's going to bring this cocktail together.
Oh, that is beautiful. Yeah, when we did our tasting with Pete earlier, he really brought us through some of the citrus on the front of that whiskey, some of the lemon zest, some of the orange zest, even some of the floral notes, orange blossom, that sort of stuff. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful up front. And that vanilla coming in together, it's like a creamsicle. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Cheers. Don't mind if I do.
Cheers.
Oh my goodness. Now that is a delight. Savannah, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you. I believe we've got all the weapons in order to challenge our good friend Josh Brandenburg over at Royalton Hotel. Now I guess we're going to find out who's got the most spirit for spirits. Welcome back to Royalton Hotel. We are ready for our competition. The only thing we need, Joshua, is someone to judge this competition. In my opinion, who's a better judge of what cocktail we serve than the guests themselves? What do you guys say? Would you please be the judges for this competition? Well, they're on board. I'm ready to go. Joshua, are you ready to go?
Sir, let's do it!
Judges, would you please count it down at 3,
2, 1, go!
All right. Right to the whiskey he goes. Look at him, goes right to the whiskey.
I'm not worried about making mistakes, so let's do good stuff first.
All right. Well, we'll see, won't we? We'll see. Oh,
It's a thing. Good boy. It's a thing, all right?
let's get it, Albie.
Well, now it's not a race. It's a competition, but take our time.
Flair.
I mean, there is an element of everybody would like their cocktail today, Josh.
Thank you, too.
Yeah, but I was always raised that good things come to those who wait.
Singer.
Nice.
Boy.
Ooh.
Nice blonde.
It's a magical feat of engineering. Actually, here. Let's get this all together.
Especially.
Oh, I think one of us might finish first.
I heard that happens to a lot of guys, Josh.
Most of us are polite enough not to tell everyone else.
PG-13? Oh, you were worried? Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That is pretty dope.
Smoky.
It's pretty dope.
Whoa.
What is that?
I think it could be...
Sir, challenge is on.
I think that's... Well, now we've seen him built. Joshua, this looks gorgeous. What have you built for us here today?
We have right here the Royalton's very famous Hickory Old Fashioned, and this is an incredibly personal cocktail for me because there's actually a story behind every ingredient and why I use them. So I was raised in a somewhat small town in the middle of Ohio, and I have a very particular memory as a kid of getting up in the morning and I would walk upstairs, and all of my homes that I grew up in were heated with wood stoves in the winter. So one of the first things I'd smell when I come up the stairs is I would smell this wood smoke coming into my nose, and Mom would have breakfast ready on the table, and there would be apple pancakes sitting out ready to go. And we had a couple in our community that had their own apple trees, and they had their own maple syrup farm as well. And so Mom would have these apple pancakes going, and we put fresh Ohio maple syrup on top of them. And it was this idea, this combination of smells and tastes that made me think of this cocktail. So what we did is we took the Whistle Pig rye whiskey and we took a nice layer of hickory chips and we charred them and blackened them. We put them into the rye whiskey and we let it sit for 2 days. Because what we're doing in this old fashioned is instead of adding extra bitters into it in liquid form, we're actually pulling tannins and bitters from the wood itself and really punching it up into the rye whiskey. Into that, we add a little bit of American Applejack, which gives us our apple flavor underneath, and then just a little bit of whiskey barrel aged maple syrup, adding a very slight sweet element into it. The last thing, the piece de resistance, is the hickory smoke on top. So you get your visual aesthetic, you get the smell of the hickory. Then as you put it to your lips, you begin to taste that little bit of maple, the little bit of apple, and then this charred wood and rye grain flavor carrying all the way throughout it. So this is a little bit of my childhood delivered out to you, and I hope that you enjoy it.
Wow, that is something. That is, I have no words. That's it's amazing where the ideas for these things come from. Who'd have thought that somebody's childhood would end up in an adulthood glass? Right? Well done, really well done. Well, as we've seen, I got to do some really amazing research of my own. I got to actually be on the farm, see how the rye whiskey is made, and have the master blender walk me through the entire process at the farm. Pete really walked me through some of the grain itself. Now, I think the grain in the Whistle Pig is really what I was trying to go for here. The spiciness of rye grain, how it differs from a lot of other ryes that are filled with corn or filled with wheat, some softer, sweeter grains. So I went for something with a lot more punch, a lot more power. So instead of using a regular standard bitters, I went with a balsamic vinegar. That's my first B in my 4 Bs old fashioned. We put that over brown sugar. Brown sugar is really the element that comes through of that charred layer in the middle of that Whistle Pig 10-year-old barrel. Really brings it all together for me. The next B is the black peppercorn, the idea of really spicing this thing up. Not so much that it overwhelms us like a jalapeno, but the soft, slow burn that the inside of a barrel has and that the whiskey has itself. And then, oh well, that's only 3 Bs. Oh, there are 4 Bs, right? I know you had a pretty garnish, so I thought I'd make one for myself. And everybody's favorite B. Everybody's favorite B. A nice piece of charred bacon. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Now, we did get out of the farm and actually see the pig on farm. I assure you, this was not that pig. I assure you. This is going to give us our lovely aromatic, the idea of savory coming through in this cocktail, in addition to the sweetness of brown sugar, the spiciness of rye whiskey. Brought this 4 Bs together for me. I hope y'all enjoy. Beautiful. Thank you guys so much for being here to be our judges for this competition. So here's how it's going to work. We are going to pass out these cocktails to you right now, little small samples of each. Joshua's going to smoke this entire tray of hickories. Oh my goodness. Look at this thing. It's ridiculous. It's so cool. Also, when you're done sampling, we're going to want you to come right up here. We have 2 jars. Joshua's jar is here. My jar is here. Just grab a cork and start stacking them up. He with the most corks wins. All right, this is up to you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and enjoy these cocktails. Well, Joshua, it appears that all the votes are in.
Yes.
We have ourselves a winner. This time, it turns out, I have the most spirit for spirits. Joshua, thank you so much.
I gotta tell you, it was a real pleasure having you come in and challenge me. But I think I know somebody who's gonna really test your experience. Caitlin, over at the Winslow, makes one of the best Negroni variations you've ever tasted. And I think she's gonna test your spirit for spirits.
All right. Well, I guess we've got somewhere to go. We've got some more work to do.
Well, it looks like the 4 Bs was victorious. That hickory smoked old fashioned by Joshua is amazing though. Well, it looks like it's on to Negroni tasting down at the Winslow with Caitlin. But that is next time on Spirit for Spirits. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to check out some of our other cool stuff we got going on. We've got the locally sourced segments you can check out. We've got the quick classics to check out. And of course, head over to Instagram and TikTok and check out the behind the stick segments from my home bar. And also a big thanks to our bar tools sponsor, Bull & China. Don't forget to go to their site right there, bullandchinapdx.com. Use the promo code S4S-hookup to get your 15% off. And we'll see you next time on Spirit for Spirits.